Right guys, back again for this week's cook along. Thanks for joining us. We moved away from the fast food this week. Well, it's sort of like it could be seen as fast food. We're going to do some Chinese food tonight, and it's going to be chicken noodles. Pretty simple, easy dish, very nutritious because you get to get loads of veggies in there, which you know you should be eating. It takes about 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes. So it's a nice, quick, easy, tasty dinner, right? So first things first, get yourself a pan of boiling water going and take your egg noodles. So this is a packet of dried noodles, and all you're going to do, I'm just going to get these in the water. They're not going to fit in the pan like mine, just snap them in half, it's fine. Drop a few of those in. I'd say that's probably enough for 3 to 4 people, a couple of blocks there. So they're in the water. So whilst they're cooking away, I'm going to get prepped for everything else. So first thing to do is the chicken. So we've got some chicken here, chicken thigh fillets these are. I'm just going to whack those onto the side. This is boiling really hard, so I'm just going to turn it down. Just give those a little prod. Right, so chicken thigh fillets. These are a nice cheap cut. We're just going to take those, flatten them out on the board, and just cut them into thin strips, a bit like you get in your noodles at the Chinese. Okay, so take a little bit of time over those, just chop it up, and then if you've got a bowl, like I have there, drop them back into the bowl once you're done. So you chop the second ones up. You could, if you haven't got a sharp knife, which you kind of do need for chopping meat, you can just use a pair of scissors, to be fair, to slice these into thin strips. But the key is to make sure that all the strips are around about the same size, and they're going to be roughly the same size as the vegetables as well, and that's just going to mean that they all cook evenly. If you've got big chunks and little chunks, some of them are going to be undercooked, some of them are going to be overcooked. So you're just trying to cut into reasonable sized strips. Okay, so nearly there. This should be able to get a bit of chicken and a bit of everything else on one fork in your mouth at the same time. That's how you gauge how big to make the chicken. Alright, so nearly chopped those now. Nearly there. Okay, right, into a bowl. Notice I'm using the red board here. Chicken is really important that you keep it away from other things that you cook in, because cross-contamination can cause you to be really sick. Equally, it's important to wash your hands. So I'm just going to pop into the kitchen, drop this in, wash my hands, wash the knife. I'll be back in 2 seconds. Okay, so that was easy. Right, next thing then. So, I'm going to take some garlic. So, probably 2 cloves of garlic. We'll do the usual. So, take the cloves, pop them on the board, use the side of your knife and pop, pop. And then that will mean, once you just crack them, it will mean that they'll pop out of their skin really easily. Okay? Just a real simple, quick way of peeling your garlic. Alright, so I'm going to chop that up. So, use your seesaw method, backwards and forwards. Get your garlic chopped nice and fine. Okay. Now, I would also say put some chilli, fresh chilli in here, because I like a bit of heat. However, my 1-year-old daughter's going to be eating mine for her tea, so I'm not going to be adding any chilli to mine because she's not ready for that yet, unfortunately. So you can add some chilli to this point, so chop your chilli up, and then some ginger as well. Now, root ginger looks like this, okay? Easiest way to peel it, I'll just knock something off. What did I knock off there? Don't know what it was. Anyway, use a teaspoon. Really easy, alright? So you just scrape the skin off of your ginger with the teaspoon. Really easy. All the way off, and it means you basically don't throw too much of your ginger away. Often people slice it off, and I've done it for years. Slice the skin off, and then you lose loads of the ginger. But by using a teaspoon, you can peel it really easy. And then you're just going to slice that into discs to start with, to make it more manageable. Okay, and then seesaw method again. You're going to get that chopped up nice and fine. You don't want big chunks of ginger in anything. You can use the lazy ginger if you like, so you can buy it in supermarkets. You can buy like jars of pre-chopped ginger in like a bit of oil. That saves some time sometimes, And if you're not going to use the ginger up very, very quickly, that might be a better option for you. But fresh is best always, obviously. Okay, so just going to chop that up. Okay, that's about right. Okay, so the garlic and the ginger are going to go into my chicken, along with some oil, a little bit of oil, and also some soy sauce. Okay, so put the soy sauce in there, probably about a tablespoon of soy sauce. I'm going to add more of that later on. This is just to marinate, like make sure the actual chicken is seasoned. Soy sauce is basically very, very salty. Oops, just going to pop that back in there. Very, very salty, and you're always going to salt your meat, but because it's so salty, we're not going to put salt on the meat today because the soy sauce is going to act as the salt. Okay, so really you want to try and marinate that for a little bit of a time. What's going on here? My pan has gone quiet, so my noodles aren't quite ready. They're not a million miles away. Just turn the heat up on those. Alright, so chicken is marinating. While we just wait for those noodles to come up to speed, we're just going to chop everything else up. So remember the old pepper trick? So take your pepper, okay, thumbs on the top, pop it in, rip it open, okay, and then you've just got that core of seeds in one spot. There's no seeds in there whatsoever. So we're going to make sure, as I said before, everything's uniform. I'm going to slice these into strips about the same sort of length and thickness of the chicken. Okay, you want to know that you've got the pepper in there. You don't want to have tiny little bits. Okay, chunks in there or strips. So I'm going to prep that chicken. Sorry, this pepper up like so. Very easy. All right. Next we have a carrot. Okay, so with the carrot, I'm going to take the top and the bottom off. Okay, then I'm just going to angle my carrot, try and do it that way so you can see. Okay, and I'm just going to slice diagonally, so I want sort of a millimetre or two thick discs. Okay, so they're long and thin, like that. Okay, so it's just the angle, so you just slice it diagonally across the carrot. If you want to cut them into circles straight across, it's not going to hurt, but I just kind of like the shape of cutting them on an angle. So again, they're kind of long, a little bit like the peppers and the chicken. Okay, so that now is done. So they were cooked for a couple of minutes. I'm just going to leave those to one side in the residual heat. Okay, and we'll come back to those in a minute. They can stay in the water, they should be fine. Okay, egg noodles don't overcook very easily. Whilst we've got this on, I'm going to get my other pan on stir fry mode. I'm going to get some oil in the pan. Now, stir fries, we cook really, really quickly. Okay, the idea is that everything cooks within just a few minutes. So it's good to have all the prep done. So when we start cooking, it's just bish bash bosh, done. All right. So I'm going to continue to prep while that oil gets hot. Okay. You guys haven't probably, if you've got the delivery from me today, you haven't got any of these. But the good thing about stir fries is you throw in anything that's in your fridge. I've got these baby corns. My daughter loves them, so I'm going to throw those in as well. So I'm just going to halve those. Again, just cut them to the same thickness as everything else. You could throw them in whole, but they're going to be undercooked when everything else is cooked. Okay, so I'm just slicing them long ways down the middle in half. Or you could put normal sweet corn in here if you want. You've got frozen sweet corn, you can throw a bit of that in. It's always good in a stir fry. Okay, I've got some mushrooms. Again, slicing those into the same thickness, like discs, as everything else. So you're probably getting each mushroom into 4 or 5 pieces, I would say. Work through those. You don't have to be working as quickly as me. I'm just trying to reduce the time you have to watch the video. You can always pause it to catch up. Okay, you don't have to go at the speed that I'm going. All right. So last mushroom. That's all good. And there's starting to be smoke coming off that pan. So while I finish my prep, I'm just going to put this chicken in. So that's the first thing that's going to go in there is chicken. I'm going to fry the chicken off. It's going to take longer to cook than everything else, just to make sure it's cooked through, because of food poisoning. So we're going to get that going. It smells amazing already. Just that ginger chilli garlic combo is awesome, even though I haven't got the chilli in there, but you all smell that. So just going to start that cooking off. Okay, with your broccoli, going to take a couple of florets, if you want to call them that. I think florets, that's how you say it. Right, and we're just going to slice those into thin strips as well. So it's all about 1 mil or 2 mil thick, everything, so it'll cook at the same pace. So I'm going to slice the rest of that broccoli. And then give my chicken a little stir. You should try and keep it moving because the garlic, if it's left in one spot, will burn, and then it gets kind of a little bit, well, it's not very nice, it kind of goes bitter. Okay, so if you keep moving it around, there's enough juices coming out of the chicken to stop anything from burning. You just keep frying away at that chicken, getting it to where we want it to be, which is all browned off basically, all looking like it's cooked, before we're going to add anything else into this pan. Alright? Okay, and the last thing, well in fact I'm going to chop the last thing, the last two things to go in, because they cook in less time than everything else, is the bean sprouts and these spring onions. So we'll chop those right at the end as everything else is cooking. So it's just a case of frying this chicken off now. We're nearly there. Because the pan's super hot, it doesn't take very long. And also because I've cut it into nice thin strips. If you have big chunks in there, you'll be taking longer for the chicken to cook. Alright? So keep working that round. I'm happy that that is almost cooked enough to add in some of this veg. Okay, and we're going to go, I'm going to turn the heat up now to super hot, okay, because we don't want, we're going to put all this cold veg into a really hot pan. We want to maintain the heat, okay, so two things you can do. You can put a little bit in, so I can put the peppers in and the, say, the carrots to start with, work them through, let the heat sort of get into them, and then add the rest, which is probably the best thing to do. But also getting your pan on as high as you can is going to help at this point, okay? A really hot pan. So I'm just going to work that. Just lost a little bit of pepper under the table, but never mind. Clean that up afterwards. And I lost a bit of chicken to the side. Okay, so that is, the heat is coming through all that stuff now. So we're going to add the rest of the vegetables. So that's the, well, we've got the mushrooms and the broccoli. You could put frozen peas in here if you wanted to. You know, you could use, there's all sorts of stuff you can put in a stir fry, whatever you fancy, whatever you like. Okay? But don't miss the veggies out. Don't just do chicken and noodles, because you've got to make sure you get those vegetables in. And a stir fry is an awesome way to make sure you get in some of those 5 a day that we often struggle to get, you know. So it's going to keep. See how I'm never going to stop moving this. That's why it's called a stir fry. You're constantly stirring, constantly moving to make sure that everything cooks evenly. Obviously, anything that's on the surface of this pan right now isn't cooking because it's not touching the bottom. All right. So you really need to make sure you turn everything over, you keep it all going through. You know, you never stop moving it around. All right. Okay, so we're going to keep going with that a bit more. Might take a few minutes. I think I lost some of the heat in my pan. Whilst that's cooking, actually, I will just leave it to sort of sit for a minute. You don't have to stir it constantly, but try and keep it moving fairly regularly. I'm just going to chop up my spring onions. Now, spring onions, the white bit at the bottom is harder and more intense than the green bits at the top. So the green bits at the top are really good for finishing your dish. So when you've served it, put a little bit of those on the top and it's a nice fresh bit of onion. So these bottom bits though, I'm going to chop those in now and get those in the pan. So half of those, so I'm going to take the stalks off, get rid of those, okay, and then sort of just slice them into little, this is the only thing we're not going to have in the same shape as everything else, we're going to cut them straight across into little like discs if you like. Okay, so they will go in. Alright, and then the top bits, I'm going to slice those nice and thinly just to finish the dish off right at the end. At this point too, we're going to add in some cashew nuts. This just gives a bit of texture, a bit of lovely flavour, and some protein as well. Obviously, looking at a balanced dish here, the chicken and the nuts are going to provide the protein. Your noodles are going to provide your carbohydrates, and then obviously you've got loads of good fruit and veg in there as well. Excuse me. So that is coming together nicely, very nicely. I think all we really need to do now, and bearing in mind that we do tend to serve a stir fry with the vegetables still quite crunchy, keep loads more of the flavour, loads more of the goodness than if you cook them to the point where you end up with like a real sloppy bowl of mush, yeah? You don't want that. Alright, so, just going to now take my noodles, okay, and add them to the bowl. Oh, where am I going? Right, put that over there. So now I'm going to add some more soy sauce to season these noodles because they've not been boiled in any water. Sorry, any salt. So I'm going for about 2 to 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. Okay, and then we literally just work everything together. So get right to the bottom, mix all those noodles into all the other ingredients, heat them through, and we're pretty much there. All right, I would say that is done. I'm going to have a little taste of the sauce. Yep, I'd say that there's enough soy sauce in there. All right, so and then we're just going to, so that's your noodles like that. Very, very easy, very simple. And then just to finish, those bits of lovely spring onion over the top. Happy days. There you go. Chinese chicken noodles. Get on it. Get those veggies in you. Enjoy it. Please, if you enjoyed what you've seen today, tell your mates, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Comment. We'd love to see the pictures of everything you've done. Next week, haven't got a clue again. So again, we'll take, you know, if you've got any ideas of what you want us to cook, give us a message and we'll try and do it. Nice one for watching. See you later.